Today is the UN's 79th birthday. But let's be honest, we are very, very, very far from achieving the peace that the UN had in mind when it was created at the end of World War II in 1945. If the UN stands a chance at living past its 80th birthday, it must do better. It must change today. It must act today for Palestine. So let's get back in time. The UN was created to ensure peace and security across the world, to ensure that the horrors of World War II were never repeated. And look, let's say the truth. The UN has done a great job on many fronts. Its health initiatives have ensured, for example, that polio has almost been eradicated. It's decreased by 99%. The stock of chemical weapons have decreased by 98%. Nuclear arsenals have decreased as well. The UN has had many successes. But politically, it's failing. And practically, it is failing dramatically to end wars across the world. Headlines on Ukraine, Lebanon, Palestine, Sudan, DRC, and I can go on, make the case for this. So if the UN stands a chance, and if the UN still has a reason to exist, it must change. Because right now, its power is hoarded by a few superpowers that play politics with our future. Right now, 5 countries, the US, the UK, France, China, and Russia, all committing major crimes, are able to block any meaningful initiative from the United Nations. If things continue this way, the UN will disappear, just like the League of Nations did after World War II. So today, on its 79th birthday, the UN must take a big look at itself and obviously start to work towards real reform by abolishing the veto power of the Permanent Five. But today it must do more than this. As we are witnessing the most documented genocide in history, Israel's genocide against Palestinians, the UN must do better. On the 19th of September, the General Assembly voted on a very good resolution calling for the end of occupation, but that's not enough. Today, the UN must pass an arms embargo on Israel without the weapons of shame, without countries providing it the weapons to murder civilians. Israel will not be able to continue its wars. Obviously, the Security Council would most likely veto it because of the United States for now. But the UN General Assembly can still pass a resolution. And the UN General Assembly and UN Chief can every single day name and shame countries still supplying weapons being complicit with Israel's crimes. This can work. On top of it, the UN must impose sanctions, political, economic, diplomatic, on Israel. More than this, it must work towards the end of occupation and apartheid. Of course, sanctions will help in getting there, but it must suspend Israel from the General Assembly of the United Nations. It is time for this country to be suspended, and there is precedent. South Africa was suspended by the General Assembly. Countries, the UN, imposed sanctions on South Africa during apartheid. Why not on Israel? We must do better. On the 79th birthday of the United Nations, we cannot shy away from the fact that the UN is failing to fulfill its basic mission of peace and security. I'm talking about Palestine, but this applies to Ukraine as well. The UN is not doing anything to deter China's threats towards Taiwan, and I could go on and on and on. But as the most documented genocide in history, live documentation is happening, we must do better.